this changes the future of public service.
Oh yeah.
It changes if you think about the divide, right? Kind of the wall of garden of, hey, I'm on a military base and no one else out knows what's going on. But if you knew that you had the ability to engage and to support your country, and it changes everything, right?
This is All Quiet on the Second Front, a podcast where boring conversations around defense tech and national security come to die. Join me, Tyler Sweatt, and my Second Front comrades as we dismantle the mundane and cut through the bureaucratic BS to demystify the world of defense tech. But be warned, this is not a typical government podcast. Ready to get weird?
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm your host, Tyler Sweatt. Welcome to another episode of All Quiet on the Second Front, the podcast where boring defense talk comes to die. Really excited today to have Brigadier General Mike McGinley with me. Currently serving as director of the GigEagle Agile talent ecosystem. And I will let him explain what that is. But Mike, thanks for making some time to come by, brother.
You bet, Tyler. This is great to be here.
Yeah, so I sort of open this. I've had the fortune of, knowing you for a while and being able to collaborate with a bunch of different ideas and projects. For maybe the one listener who doesn't know who you are, can you share a little bit about your background, kind of who you are, your story, and, a little bit of a teaser on sort of what you're cooking up right now?
Yeah, that's great. Again, thanks for the opportunity. I love what you're doing. This is phenomenal forum, so appreciate that. So Mike McGinley, been in the Air Force a little over 25 years. It seems like it's gone in a flash. Most of that has been in a reserve capacity, right? So I've been able to straddle both the public and the private sector and grow in both. My background is business and policy and law. I spent 7 years at law firms, including K Street, watching how things were working. And then I also have spent time, 4 years activated, standing up the Cambridge office of the Defense Innovation Unit Experimental from 2016 to 2020. So got an interesting look at how things were moving at that intersection between really innovation in those two sectors. And so where I am now is I'm a mobilization assistant at the Air Force Life Cycle Management Center as a part-time role. I'm also at Google as my full-time job. And so we're clear, I'm not in uniform today. What we're going to be talking about is from Mike. My personal opinions, not necessarily as a member of the DoD, because I'm going to push some things and I'm going to give you my vision of where I want to drive the future of talent. And we're going to talk about a whole of nation national security talent ecosystem. And man, this is big, bold stuff. So we're going to dive in. It is thorny, it is tough, but the potential to do something truly extraordinary is here. So I'm thrilled to be with you today.
Dude, heck yeah. And I mean, you and I have talked. I can't imagine there's somebody listening who hasn't experienced that first time they realize, like, hey, this isn't a technology problem. This is a people problem. And it's either A, how do I find the right person who maybe has the knowledge, the skills, the ability to go do something, or B, like I've told you my story where I'm a reservist, I'm working on Fort Meade, we're begging, borrowing, and stealing to find like a small detachment of people who are like on terminal doing work. And I'm watching all of these folks I know who are in other units who can do tremendous technical things, but nobody in the reserves or the guard knows how to find them, how to harness them. So even at a micro, just in like the broader sort of DMV, we didn't have a tracker and capability that sort of let us figure that out. So, I'll start with kind of how do you look at the problem and how do you think about segmenting that to kind of set the foundation for what that vision is going to be?
Yeah, well, that second one's tough. Now, the problem I think is immense. We're sitting on a gold mine of talent, right? You look at this and you say, hey, we're in a great power competition. The talent that we have, and there's actually a great quote from the 2018 National Defense Strategy. It says, it's the creativity of the American warfighter is our greatest enduring strength. And I love that because it just nails it. And I would come back to anybody who says we're doing a good job of this and say, No way. That is absolutely not the case. When you understand truly, and you brought this up in the example you gave, Tyler, of the talent that is within our guard and reserve forces, over 1 million members, including 200,000 members of the IRR that we've essentially let go. Those are reservists we've let go. It is incredible. And then you look at the talent that our active duty members are developing on any given day. And then you say, what? Look at the members of academia who want to participate in this mission, or industry, defense tech or beyond, who say, I have skills that I want to engage. All those are essentially, there's just chips that are lying on the table and no one's picking up. That is a foul, right? And so that's what we're addressing here. And so the concept is the Agile talent ecosystem, and it's a market-based concept that really gets at what you're asking, which is, hey, how do we just identify and engage and segment the talent we need when we need it? So I want you to think of 3 concepts, right? I'm going to put out. The first is on the demand side. It's called beyond team collaboration. And what we're doing here is to say, look, instead of just relying on the people in your current organization like we've always done, think more broadly. Open the aperture. What if I told you, in that point, you're at the fort, you can look beyond your own organization to find that talent. Would you do it? Probably is hell yeah, of course I would do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right? Now look on the supply side. The concept is called talent fluidity. And this is, again, you're a reservist, you've done this. We all do a million different things. If I change the culture of the Department of Defense to say, you know what, this is actually what I expect, not just that you have one job or one military occupational specialty or Air Force specialty code or rate, whatever it happens to be, but you are a member of the department. Yeah, you have a primary, but I want you to think about what's the highest and best use of your skills, almost like a free agent. That's going to be supplemental, and you can go do that. If I open the aperture, that's talent fluidity. And then in the middle, they meet this marketplace that we're calling GigEagle. And what that allows you to do, it's a skills-based marketplace that uses AI to match demand with supply. And it'll allow you with fine-tuning to say, hey, who is large language model experience? Who's my Python coder? And immediately get that information. It is a joint endeavor. It is not a stovepipe platform. It's an enterprise system to be able to do that and help us engage.
Yeah, I think the vision is unbelievable, right? And I think you described the problem perfectly. That hey, there's sort of all of these chips scattered. I'd say, as you look at sort of that future state where, hey, I've got the ability to sort of sense, I've got the ability to connect, got the ability to collaborate, and we talk about sort of that horizontal aspect versus that vertical stovepiping. Right. Agree 100%. I think maybe the pessimist in me or the has spent enough time around government is like, okay, I get it. But then I juxtapose that with like the personnel system, which is, inch wide, 5 miles deep. I'm like, no, hey, your job code says X, you can only do Y. How do we start to think about, either at the policy level, and this harkens back to your law and sort of policy backgrounds, but the policy level and the people, the change management, the culture change to embrace something like that?
Yeah, I think it comes down to one thing, and that shows its mission execution, showing that what we're building makes a difference in great power competition, and the military's role in all that. And so just to give you kind of back up a little bit, so I lead a team. I have a people team, a policy team, a product team, and a comms team, right? And so you hit it. You knew, right? You said these are the issues, and you've nailed them. So what we're doing here is I think really transformative and revolutionary. But we hit barriers at every single one of those areas. And so what we're looking at as we build the team is for people to have a very frank conversation about, hey, to get this result, we have to overcome these hurdles. And here's what I've found. We've been doing this for a while. The best way around those, Tyler, is to show we're actually making a difference. Like the system works. Now, let me give you an example without getting too specific. It was a couple of weeks ago. I had received an email and said, hey, Mike, we're looking for help. We have a really cool, one of our military lab organizations was developing something that's pretty phenomenal. And we need help and support. Can you help us out to find talent? Because we're deficient in some areas. And I said, no problem. So I went on to GigEagle, and you can actually look it up. It's gigeagle.mil. You need a CAC to get in, but For those who do, I certainly encourage you to check it out. And you can create a profile. So we had people, gone in there and people have created profiles and they've listed their skills. And so I very quickly went in. I said, this is the problem I'm trying to solve. And these are the skills that might be relevant. And because the system uses artificial intelligence to match not just direct words, but they look for adjacencies as well, it returned instantly a list of almost 60 people who had those necessary skills. And then they were all over the Department of Defense. Because right now we just opened up to reservists and guardsmen. And so this happened to be a one service lab. I was able to find and engage reservists from different services. And then it's set up so when you create your profile, you give contact information. So I was able to literally text the guy and say, hey, can you talk? And then so, he said, sure. And I call him and I said, hey, this is Brigadier General McGinley. And he said, this is Captain Snuffy. He said, oh my God, how is this call happening? He said, look, we have a deal for you. Are you interested? And that's how fast this thing happens. So when you show those results, when you get those people pushing back on you, you say, if you're serious about great power competition, the onus is on you to tell me why we can't do this.
Yeah. I love that. And I will also call out that this is you changing the paradigm on when a general calls Captain Snuffy. Because, in a prior life, that was my worst nightmare, getting a text message from a general. Like something had gone horribly wrong. There's no good reason that a general was calling me. I think that's awesome. As you think about sort of rolling to, the Guard and the Reserve and bringing that in, like, what is the future? Like, we talked in the beginning, sort of this mobilizing the nation and really harnessing all of the magic that America brings from innovation and technology and cultural resiliency and just intestinal fortitude. Like, what does that look like at scale for you?
Oh, it looks awesome. I love the way you put that, right? And it's grit, right? We Americans bring grit and innovation and ingenuity and can-do attitude. I can't tell you how many people have said to me, how can I serve? How can I put on the uniform? How can I serve my country? Right. And I might be, some people are older, they're 40, they can't put on the uniform anymore. I'm like, I have a deal for you. Right. So I want you to think about this. You remember playing the old game Trivial Pursuit?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, and they had those pies, those circular pies, right? And the goal was you go around and you collect wedges from different components, different sectors, and then you ultimately win the game. That is my vision for the Agile talent ecosystem powered by GigEagle. GigEagle is that center of that pie, right? And so think about this. Each wedge is a sector of the U.S. economy that has a relevance to national security. So energy or tech, manufacturing, agriculture, I don't care. What I care is that I can identify and I can engage the talent that we need from across the country, regardless of where that talent resides, to be able to bring them in. And GigEagle, to be very clear, is for short-term work. It's not necessarily for assignments. It's between 4 hours and 90 days. I guarantee you, if I could pick and form my dream team of anybody across the country and bring them on for 4 hours, that would make a hell of a lot of difference. And so what we're thinking of is, how do we set that up? And this is a great conversation to have. And I'll be frank about this. My vision right now is maybe we set up 501c3s for each sector to manage the population and their own experts. They set the bar about who can enter, right? Who can be a part of this ecosystem. They define and tag data. So we have structured data that we can bring in to say, yeah, this is how we're going to mark this. And what we're looking at that in my mind is that's a federated approach. So as the DoD guy, I don't need to dictate that because I can't. But what I want you, Tyler, is to tell me, hey, who in tech matters, right? How should they engage? And then help funnel them into national security missions.
Yeah, it's funny. You went 501c3. I was going to say, hey, like you could put like a little council together that's helping, and even just at like the simple, like just design sort of problem definition phase of a journey. Just think if you're on your side and hey, like General Mike McGinley has a problem. Hey, I need Council X real quick, and all of a sudden there's a 4-hour working group with 10 industry CTOs or CISOs or principal engineers, and you storm on it. You essentially buy back in a 4-hour conversation. You probably buy back 6 months of, bureaucratic hell.
Yes.
That returning that time absolutely is a lever for value. That's unreal.
You're on the team. You're on the team. That was perfect. That is it, right? When you get this concept, it's mind blowing. You think about who would you pick? Think about the knot. And if you're listening, think about the knottiest, the Gordian knot problem that you have. And then think if you had the ability to pull anybody from across the country or even our allies, frankly, and you could bring them in for 4 to 8 hours asynchronously. And you said, I mean, this
rocks.
Now let me give you another challenge, and maybe you would get thoughts on this. If you're an operational commander, and all of a sudden you notice, for example, I don't know, the Russians are flying Iranian drones. We haven't seen that before. What do? Who would you pick? Right. So each operational problem, especially from a combatant commander perspective, the way we approach is different. And if you notice, I call this ATE, Agile Talent Ecosystem. It's similar in some ways to the Air Force's Agile Combat Employment concept, but it flips it on its head. So instead of having, I got it, we have one airman doing many things. The concept is we have the whole country who can help that one airman in a time of need.
And think about the dynamic. Like, I keep going back to just levered capability, but think about what that means for a combatant command or a TSOC or some forward deployed, geographically constrained, potentially kinetic operational organization. The ability to reach back and effectively have the CAG of all CAGs and say hey, I actually need a commander's advisory group that is these 3 professors, these 3 industry experts, and hey, I actually need a banker here to give me this type of regulatory perspective. Can we pull that together? And it's a quick 90-minute skull session. Oh my God.
Right.
I'm flashing back to, I still have it. I had emailed, I was a captain in Eastern Afghanistan and could not for the life of me, was trying to do a bunch of non-lethal effects with, economic approaches and some IO stuff. I had this super thorny problem and was researching on my one laptop that worked. Emailed a professor at MIT and was hey, I can't afford the book you wrote. It was a $3,000 academic masterpiece. And I was can I buy chapter 7? I'll send you a check, or here's my parents, they'll send you money. And he wrote back and sent it. But you think about the ability to get somebody like that on the horn, it absolutely transforms how we even think about capability projection. And especially as you start to mass that at a great power level, that's nobody's thinking like that.
Yeah. And this is, and you flip it on the other side too, you can say, this is, I talk about this and it's big, it's bold, it's aspirational, but this changes the future of public service.
Oh yeah.
It changes if you think about the divide, right? Kind of the walled garden of, hey, I'm on a military base and no one else out knows what's going on. But if you knew that you had the ability to engage and to support your country, and it changes everything, right? And so it's just so exciting when you start to think about how these concepts.
It's unreal.
Yeah,
it's unreal. And I mean, look, I think you know the point I'm going to bring up because it's a one that is something everyone's going to have to solve together, right? There's in every program, there's bad actors. There's folks who want to use it to their own advantage. So there's a conflict of interest lens that I think we're going to have to sort of collaboratively kind of explore. But I just want to ask it as we're talking about this. So, because I know somebody's going to ask is, okay, how does this prevent, contractor A from taking contractor hat off and putting government hat on, doing something, coming back, and then putting that thing directly into a bid, or, I'm grossly oversimplifying it. But how do we prevent things like that from maybe destabilizing or, derailing this friggin' transformative effort?
Yeah, first of all, I think we have to keep raising questions like this, right? This is one of those things as we engage, this is the feedback, these are the frank conversations we have, because these things are hard, right? And we've been, I've encountered this for a couple of years as people have asked about this, and they're fair. So the way we set this up is, number one, when you get a gig. So this is actually, for example, GigEagle is very, very clear. It's you use a CAC the first time that you log in. It's now my personal device. I don't need a CAC anymore. It's just it uses my Face ID to log in, so I can see that and I can engage without that. However, if I do accept a gig, can come up my phone, hey, you've been matched, right? So the algorithm's going to match me to a potential gig. And some of those might be conflicts because it's going to look at my skill set and say, hey, here it is, but may not know that it might cause that conflict. If I want to do a gig, it will automatically notify my supervisor. Okay, so that's one. Well, if I'm engaging here, certainly if I'm in the military, that's going to be very clear. Outside of the military, it's a harder question, right? It's not going to go to your supervisor because it doesn't matter, right? And so what we have is the same way that we sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement in the military. There are rules of the road and parameters for participating in GigEagle. And when you think about it, when you have that demand signal, you are making a request. And you're going to look at the skills and the people. You're going to see their resume. You're going to see all of their skills. You'll have a sense if there's a conflict or not. You might. But there's always that gray area and there's always an edge case. But we put in left and right bounds to make sure that people know essentially conduct that is even close is not permitted. And then you can also get booted from the system if not. But if I'm asking for that talent, I get to decide what information I release. So I can just say, hey, Tyler, here's the question I need solved. Tell me your best. I don't give you anything necessarily. I'm the app. And you say, here's what I think. And I say, fantastic. I know it's a conflict. If I give you information, I'm not going to. I'm going to ask all of your peers. So if we're smart about this, I think we can make it work. But we need to raise these questions. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a thing. As any new initiative evolves, we're going to continue to find new edge cases and new boundaries, and you do them one with the pure intention that we're talking about, and two, you do them transparently and you solve for them. And I think that's kind of all anybody can really ask for. Or else we end up in the shitty personnel system that we already have, and we don't need that. It's not working.
We don't want that.
Yeah. All right. So last question sort of is we turn the corner, and I'm really curious in your answer here. Because you've got me so fired up that I just want to now just go to GigEagle and change the world with you. If you could wave a magic wand, you're king for a day, and you could change anything, and you don't have to caveat, assume that your intent is just fulfilled. What's the one thing you change and why?
Yeah, I'm going to be very concrete about this rather than going super, change the world. I think, and this is, I thought a lot about this for years about this. We need within the Department of Defense an Agile Talent Joint Program Office. So let me unpack that a little bit. We need an Agile Talent JPO. I'm not talking about the service personnel. I'm not talking about the policy level at the Chief Talent Management Office, even though they need to be connected. I'm talking about an organization that understands and identifies talent differently to build this whole of nation collaboration system and can implement it, has those powers to do it. This is doable. I think it's a necessary next step, and it's something I am actively pursuing to do this. By doing this, it changes the nature of the game because it gives finally a concrete form and a structure for us to build around. The same, look, when I was building and helping at the early stages of DIUX and DIUX 2.0, I saw how hard this is. But if you look at the leaders of those organizations, phenomenal respect because they were able to create something that didn't exist and satisfy a latent demand signal. And my premise here, Tyler, is that's exactly what we're looking at. People haven't really thought about or starting just now to think about the power of truly unlocking American talent. And an Agile Talent JPO is a concrete way to make that happen.
I love that. And it gives a clear place for people to go when they want to get involved, right? And when they want to help. Because I think that is one of those problems now. If somebody's sitting there, and to your point, right? They're not in a uniform, they're not in an agency, they're not a federal civilian. And they're I really want to contribute. Where the heck do they go? who do they call? What website do they go to? Now we've at least got, and we'll have it in the show notes with the URL and stuff here. But as we're continuing to bring new places to educate and then attract, there's got to be some entity that's making sure that that mechanism continues to endure and remains agile. So it's a great freaking idea.
Absolutely. And I have one more thing I want to get as a teaser too. So one of the things that my team is working on, and this is still, there's a lot that needs to be done. So nothing is finalized, but if you think about GigEagle is a skills-based talent market for national security. GigEagle SOAR, right? It is SOAR, but a different type of SOAR for your security folks. It's a spouse opportunity access and recognition, like an eagle soaring, right? That's the intent.
Yep.
And so we're working with OSD right now to think about this and how to build this. And if you think about the power of engaging military spouses who have to go along with their spouse through the entire career and how hard that is, you move time and time again to be able to allow them to, again, think of it as a mashup between LinkedIn and Uber, to identify, break down all of their skills, and then to make sure that they can get employment, to connect to employers, and to connect with each other. I mean, that is something that I'm just thrilled to discuss. I think that is something that has a lot of legs, and I'm incredibly excited about it.
Yeah, I think that is, I mean, that harnesses the actual full potential of the active guard and reserve, just the DoD component. And two, I think that's also just an outstanding thing for, family and service members sort of resilience. I think we oftentimes over rotate onto one side of that family dynamic coin and assume that the other just is sort of, oh, it's the other side of the coin, so it has to go with wherever this side of the coin goes to. And like, there's a drag coefficient there that results in a lot of leakage of core talent out of the military. And that's ultimately degrading national level capabilities, because for every 10 that get out as an E3 or an O3 because they're tired of moving, that's a different talent pool for 06 and 07 and E8 and all of that. Dude, that rocks. We're going to do a return episode and do a progress and click in on that. And this rocks, man. Dude, I could do this. I'm so fired up. I could do this all day. This is awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. And I could not be, one, just as an observer and a champion, just more excited and proud and just fired up about what you guys are working on. And as I'm sure everybody listening, ready to help however we can, because this matters.
I love it. Like, this is a call to action. If you are a member of the Guard and Reserve and you want to engage, drop me a line or go to gigeagle.mil. And we can get you. We use the platform to bring you onto the team. We need all the help. This is a community build. So thanks for the opportunity. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, Tyler.
Heck yeah. All right, everybody. Talk soon. Cheers.